Hello, welcome to another live stream of Tech Leaders Academy. My name is Sarah and I'm the host of this event today. And besides that, I'm, of course, also the co founder of Tech Leaders Academy. This is a platform on which we offer courses, events, streams, and you will also find more content on how to progress in your tech career and also upskill into tech leadership. By the way, in October, we are going to start a new masterclass, especially for tech leads. And the early bird is ending on Saturday. So if you are interested in that, you can check out our website. It's called Tech Lead Masterclass. And if you have further questions on the program, you can also write me a DM and then I'm happy to help. So today we are focusing on a very exciting question and we are asking ourselves, what is the next big thing in tech? And this is also very interesting for tech leads because tech leaders should be informed about the latest technology trends, of course, and they should also be able to evaluate which of these new technologies are also interesting to be implemented in the products they are building for software development, but also in the data field. And yeah, the question that comes up recently, or let's say since a year, is the big Gen AI topic, of course. And the question that I have, especially in my mind, is will we still surf on the Gen AI wave in 2024? So let's discuss that in this live stream today. And as always, if you want to interact with us, you are highly welcome to ask your questions, but also share your opinions with us in the chat. So, and of course, I'm not talking alone. I have a wonderful guest with me. His name is Tarek Madany Mamlouk. He works as an innovation engineer at Axel Springer. And at night, he says he's a content creator. And what does that mean, actually? Actually, it means he has not one, not two, but even three podcasts or let's say YouTube shows. So he is quite busy in producing content about latest technology trends and how all these trends are influencing our lives, our work, but the whole society as well. And I'm really happy that he's here with us today. What I want to mention also is that he was nominated for the German Podcast Award. I think it was with one of his podcast shows. And if he is now an award-winning podcast host, this is the question, and we need to ask him personally. So let's welcome him on this stage. Here is Tarek. Welcome, Tarek.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Nice that you're here with us, that you're taking the time, and especially you are very professional in content creation.
That's I have a lot of fun with content creation. If I'm that successful, I'm not sure. And you're totally right. This one podcast that I'm producing was nominated for the German Podcast Prize, but we did not win.
Okay.
So I can proudly say we were nominated, but that's all there is.
Okay. So maybe next time. So can you
Right.
apply for it, or will you be nominated from a jury, or how does it work?
Yeah, in this case, it was actually that one of my co-producers just like entered us into this competition, and we were selected, or let's say they considered us for the prize, and then there was those voting. But we did not get enough votes of this. But this was really crazy because this was exactly the one podcast that I'm producing that we are just doing for fun. It's a German podcast. It's called Elk Country, and we are discussing their Star Wars and fantasy and TV shows and movies and everything without a script, simply like a fun show, simply laughing about it, making jokes, being sometimes even politically incorrect with some topics. And we are really doing this for fun. And so it was really weird when we then got the message, oh, by the way, you are nominated for the German Podcast Prize.
And the other two podcasts, it's more about the other passion that you have. So it's more about technology and innovation and hypes. Is that right?
Yeah, right. So one of those podcasts, I'm very shamelessly, you might add, of that, the Tech Review podcast. This is one that is, we are bringing it out every single week. And on this podcast, we're discussing the latest developments in technology. So basically what I'm doing as an innovation engineer, keeping track of what Elon Musk is doing and what is happening with Facebook and Microsoft and OpenAI, of course, but also what we are doing. And I say we, not like we, but the humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity is doing colonizing the moon and Mars and quantum computers and all of these topics. And every day we have so many news headlines that we thought, let's talk about this, discussing this, so people don't have to read everything for themselves, but simply can get like a nice discussion about these topics. And this is the Tech Review. And also I'm having the Innovation Engineering podcast where I take selected topics together with my co-host and we go more in depth. And this is also targeted for let's say IT management, for example, decision makers, because there we are talking about things like drive or is OKR overrated, or these topics that are partly technical, but also simply very important to know for people working in this industry. And so I have like a variety of shows that you might like.
Yeah, that's cool actually. And what I find really impressive is your whole setup. So it's the background, it's the camera, the microphone, the sound. It's really nice to hear that. And it's also a nice appreciation, I think, for all the watchers and the listeners, because it's always good if you have good quality and if you have hosts that are aware of these audio and video quality.
Yeah, but you could also say it's over-engineered, and this happens if you put an engineer in charge of a podcast.
Yeah.
Then everything will be over-engineered.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun. It's actually the thing that I enjoy doing. This is one of my passion projects, and so this is not a necessity or someone forcing me to do that. But actually, it's fun. It's fun to produce that stuff.
Yeah. So, icebreaker question. As always, I'm starting my interview with an icebreaker question. And I think it also is a quite good question for you, for an innovation engineer, because just imagine you could travel through time, like one time, like once in your life. You can go there and you can come back. So it's not a matter of to decide whether you want to stay in the past or the future. But my question rather is, would you rather go to the past and take one of our latest technologies to the past and teach the people how to use that? Or would you rather go to the future and grab a technology from the future and bring it to our today's life? What would you prefer and why?
Actually, that is no question at all. I will immediately travel to the future because I'm so curious to see what happens next. This is the big question. I can read history books and I learn everything about history. That's interesting, but I kind of already know that. But I want to see what is going to happen like in 10 years or 20 years. Are we actually going to colonize other planets, or is it? Maybe I can only travel like 10 years to the future, then we have the apocalypse. There's not much more future left. I don't know. But I think this would be super interesting. And I wouldn't even be that interested in grabbing a technology, bringing it back to the past. I simply want to see what is happening next. If, for example, in the 60s, people were imagining the future looks like flying cars through the cities and everything. We don't have that yet. But I'm really interested to see if this is going to happen, or if this stays like science fiction, because it's simply not what's the word, impractical. Yeah, having flying cars might be totally impractical, and in reality, we will build like tunnels, like Elon Musk is doing in California,
Okay.
or like beaming technology from Star Trek.
Yeah. So now let's shift it a little bit in this direction. So you are not only a podcast host and a content creator, but you're also actually an innovation engineer working for Axel Springer. So could you also give us even more sentences about what are you doing there and how did you become an innovation engineer?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm doing there, I get this question a lot. No, but actually, the first thing that I have to say is what I'm not doing is building like everyday standard technologies or everyday standard software. Yeah, usually, or my background is software engineering. I studied computer science, and so I am the guy sitting there programming websites and stuff. But this was too boring for me, too standard. And so I stopped doing that and started evaluating technologies like blockchains and VR and quantum computing and AI. So all these things that have a lot of potential benefits, but are not standard yet, even though some of the things I just said are already standard yet. But this is kind of the role that I took in the organization. And I'm really, really thankful that Axel Springer is also investing heavily in this area, and they have budgets so that I can actually do these things that I'm doing, because they are kind of expensive. Not expensive in terms of I'm burning through millions of euros, but the things that I'm building, they are research, they are evaluations, they are experiments, simply to understand what technologies have merit, which technologies might be important tomorrow or in the next 10 years, let's say it like that. But they are not making money right now. Even though if you have standard technologies, standard portals, let's say a TV station, yeah, it's not innovation to have like a TV station, but it makes money. So you need these products, you need these technologies to pay your people. And so this is something that we also have. But I'm not working there. I'm not building software there. I'm looking at what is going to happen next year. And this is amazing. For me, it's the best job that I could imagine. And also important if you and your organization want to stay ahead on the game and want to leverage competitive advantages, because it's always important to see what happens tomorrow, because sometimes it's about just, let's say, profit becoming better, but sometimes it's a question of life and death, because an organization can die if startups pop up that are doing the same thing that you're doing but way more efficient or way better, and you can't compete because you are still using the technologies from 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely right. And when exactly did it happen that you became an innovation engineer? Yeah, and did this, was it an application or did you apply for the job, or was it your own idea to create this job and then you pitched it in front of, I don't know, the management or leadership board?
Yeah, kind of everything what you just said. No, it's actually interesting, because when I started working, when I left university, when I got my first job, I wasn't aware that there are these kind of jobs that are not fitting into a standard template. I worked as a software engineer. Later, I worked as an IT consultant, and I actually started making like a standard career. I became a team lead, and then I became a department head, and then I became even a CTO. It was very, very amazing. I was very proud on what I had on my business card, like the fancy title and everything. But the thing is, the higher I grew in this hierarchy, the less I was able to do the things that I actually love. And in the end of this journey, I saw that my developers were doing exactly all of these things that I wanted to do, but I was busy filling out Excel sheets and doing presentations and all of these things that I actually hate. Yeah, and so then I talked to one person from Axel Springer, actually. So this was the first time that I was doing this job. And he was telling me that he's searching for someone evaluating technologies and taking a look at what is going to happen next. Yeah, and this was exactly what I always wanted to do. And so this sounds like a great thing. And he had the budget for a couple of years. And so I simply said, okay, it was a very hard decision, because I had to leave like my previous career in the past and start this thing. And I never had this kind of job. And as you said, this job did not really exist. And I think it still not really exists, because wherever you see something like a innovation manager or innovation engineer or something, people keep like inventing whatever this means.
Yeah.
And the same for me. I wrote the definition of what an innovation engineer is basically by myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think Innovation Scout can also be quite like in a similar box, like crazy Mark. Like, make a short break and give us an explanation why you brought this crazy Mark.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No. Just make a short pause and then we come back, because I find it really funny.
So this is my disrupting mug. No, this is basically a running gag from one of my podcasts.
Yeah.
And my podcast co-host Sebastian Waschnik, kudos to you. He brought up this idea of, hey, we have these nerdy mugs. Let's start each episode with presenting one of our nerdy mugs. And this one is actually from Star Wars land. This is the mythosaur from The Mandalorian. Yeah, and so this is like one of our running
And I
gags.
prepared myself as well. That's the most weirdest mug that I have in my cupboard. It's from the Christmas market, I think 4 years ago. And it's for malt wine. Actually, I have only water with some mint in there because it's not yet malt wine season, but next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a nerdy mug, but I think it's a bit like my most unusual one that I have.
It qualifies. Absolutely.
Okay, coming back, like break, final break ends here. So, what did we talk about before? It's like do you define the innovation engineer role by yourself in a kind of way? And I think it can be a bit similar to a innovation scout as well, but more with a technological focus. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though, I mean, when you say innovation scout, I like create a mental image of
Yeah.
what this actually means. I imagine someone going through the market,
Yeah.
searching for new products, new technologies, and scouting them for their individual use cases. Yeah, and it's kind of what I do, but more on a technical level. Yeah.
I think scouting is a part of your job, but the engineering is as well. Nice.
Right, exactly.
So now the question has to come: generative AI. How much of the time that you're spending at work are you spending with generative AI technologies right now? Is it like all over the place, or is it a hype still?
Yeah, I mean, hype is not bad. Of course, there is this hype. The question is how much of this hype will be left over, like in 1 or 2 years. And absolutely, I think it's not surprising that I'm, let's say, 95% of my job right now is involving generative AI. This is just the big thing right now. But before that, I was working with blockchain technologies, and before that, I was working with VR technologies. And so there are these big technologies that need to be evaluated, that need to be worked with. And right now, it is just generative AI. And compared to the others, this one is actually a way bigger, I call it also hype. But it is a very important hype because this technology is based on natural language. Yeah, we're talking about these LLMs, large language models, and they introduce new possibilities everywhere where we are using language. And this is basically everywhere. Yeah, every person uses language in their everyday life. Every use case that we are doing everywhere, be it in science, be it in management, be it in automotive, whatever. You have language everywhere. And so this is a technology that penetrates basically all industries. And that's why, of course, there's a lot of hype in there. But it's important for everyone. Yeah, with blockchains, everyone was first loving it, but it was very quickly obvious that it did not really touch all the industries in a meaningful way. People were coming up with use cases which made no sense at all, simply to push this technology there. With language, it's different. It actually fits everywhere. Yeah? And that's why, of course, there is a lot of hype and people are doing exactly the same thing, using ChatGPT for everything. And some of these use cases are going to disappear again. But absolutely, it touches all of the industries. I compare it more like the emergence of the internet. Yeah? This is something where also in the beginning people were very skeptical, but the internet is now defining all industries. There's no industry that is not somehow related with the internet.
Is there already one use case? I don't know how specific you can talk about it, but is there already a use case at Axel Springer in the field of generative AI that you brought or other people in your team brought to production? Or is it still in this prototyping experimentation phase?
Yeah, yes and no. We have first products based on generative AI that are in production, even though I would not say that those are like disruptive scenarios. For example, when Axel, no, sorry, when OpenAI was introducing this concept of plugins, where you were able to connect your business logic of your company to the ChatGPT backend. We were one of the first companies in Germany providing like a news plugin in OpenAI. So this was one thing that we were really proud of, even though this is a very, very small use case. It is giving ChatGPT the capability of reading like Axel Springer news and telling you what is in there. It's a cool thing, but it's not really disruptive, right? And the same thing right now, we have a ChatGPT kind of plugin where when you visit our news sites, you can chat with ChatGPT, but without going to ChatGPT, the website.
So
And
you
so we are
self-hosted
making it. Yeah,
in a way.
right, right. It's basically available to our users who are not let's say, intrinsically motivated to go to chatgpt.org and type in there. So
Okay.
making it available to other people, even though there's not really much magic in that. It's really just the chatbot and
Okay.
some predefined questions. That's why, on the one hand, we are very proud of the release of these features because they are in production, but they are not yet the full extent of what this technology is capable of. So we are still working on those use cases where we say, okay, here we actually have something that will change this industry forever, and this is going to come.
Yeah. What I find very fascinating with ChatGPT, especially, but with this all Gen AI thing, is that for me, it was the first time it really became like AI really became mainstream. I can remember when I was driving in the car and the radio moderator was like explaining that he used ChatGPT for, I don't know, planning a birthday party for his child. And I was like, wow, shit. Now we are really like bringing AI into mainstream. Because before I have the data background, of course, I'm thinking about AI and the technologies and data science specifically, which is not originally AI, but I think I was more in there. But then finally, like within some weeks, everyone was talking about it. Everyone was
Yeah.
using it and trying it out for the very different purposes. What do you think from your perspective? How can like generative AI in general influence us as human beings and us as a whole society?
Yeah, I think we will definitely be impacted by the way that we perceive certain tasks and workloads. And I would compare this with the introduction of like book printing. Yeah, this is one of my favorite examples. Back in the day, people were literally writing books with their hands, making copies, physical copies of the book with their hand. When they started printing books, all of these people lost their job basically. But it was a huge leap because nobody had to take care of that anymore. And the same thing with manufacturing cars, for example. You had suddenly these conveyor belts, and it was way easier to build stuff in factories. And we kind of have the same situation today where for example, I'm working for a media organization. We have a lot of people doing stuff like writing text. And I'm not saying that everyone who's writing text is going to lose their job, but the way that we are going to see this task will change because this is something that now that our machines are actually mastering the art of language can be automated. And even though we can say, there are some things I don't like the style of this of ChatGPT, or there are some things that are repeating themselves, some wordings, and we are already counteracting this with better prompting and new versions and fine tuning
Yeah.
because we are right now still in the very beginning of this new technology, and so we can't rely on ChatGPT will stay the way that it is forever. It's a question of weeks and months until the next version is coming
Yeah.
out, and so certain language-based tasks will be automated if we want it or not. And so this whole point of view on content creation, for example, media, language-based tasks, assisting technologies, this will totally change. And we see now, I think I saw today a headline where I think Mark Zuckerberg introduced a new version of smart glasses that are connected to ChatGPT, and so they can tell you what you're seeing or giving you details of stuff that you're seeing. I only like skimmed it. I'm not sure exactly what it is doing.
Okay.
But I think this is exactly what is going to happen. Things that we can't even think of yet are going to be automated and assisted. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I cannot remember a day since last day November when I'm not using any kind of AI in my day-to-day life, because it's like if it's just a sparring partner to brainstorm ideas
Yes.
and then coming up with some that I was missing. Still, if I don't use it to write full text, still it gives me a lot of assistance in
Yeah.
brainstorming and coming up with new ideas. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. But no. let me answer a question that you did not ask.
Yeah.
I mean, we have, of course, these fields where now the teachers are complaining. All of our students, they don't do homework
Yeah.
anymore because ChatGPT is doing all the homeworks. And of course, this is now a new technology. We had this in the 90s when we started using the internet, that the teachers were saying, people going to the internet and downloading like homework. Nobody's working anymore. But it's just another tool helping
Yes.
us. And for example, I'm not using ChatGPT to do all of my work, but these LLMs are already assisting me with writing English text, for example. I'm not a native English speaker. My English is not perfect, absolutely not. But whenever I'm writing a text in English, I have it proofread by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it sounds amazing. It sounds like I would write like perfect English. So there's no excuse anymore to make spelling mistakes or having bad grammar. Even if you receive scam emails, there's no reason anymore that scam emails look the way that they are doing,
Yeah,
because
true.
you can use ChatGPT to write them perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course, young students, they grow up now with ChatGPT and these LLMs, and they are going to use it for good or not so good intentions. But it is going to be a standard tool. So it is necessary that they learn to use ChatGPT to avoid
Yeah.
bad grammar, to learn to actually ask questions. So in the future, they are going to use ChatGPT as a assistant system, because you don't get your good grade anymore for going to a library and spending 6 hours searching a book,
Yeah.
because this process is going to be automated.
Yeah.
And so our educational system needs to evolve with the technologies that we are having.
Yeah, definitely. And one other aspect that I was thinking about is many engineers, doesn't matter if they come from software or data, they often complain about like really poor requirements coming from stakeholders. And I hope that it somehow evolves and improves because of such systems, because it really makes you like more precise in your language, because the prompts need to be precise. Otherwise, you will get not the results that you want. And I think everyone can now practice to have a really clear communication style, and hopefully it will also will be a good result in other kind of areas we are working with, for example in requirements engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that we can also take away from this is, usually if you work on any kind of task, it's always a great thing to have it peer
Yes.
reviewed. You have someone
Yeah.
on your team working as a mirror for yourself, yeah, and you show it to them, you explain it to them, you get feedback, and together, usually if it's like a well-working team, you create better results than you do on your own. And now with assisting systems like ChatGPT, you can automate that. And I'm not saying like we never need teams anymore or people helping you with stuff, but you have like a very low barrier to get a first pair of eyes on that.
Yeah.
And I here I have already like a vision of what is coming next, because ChatGPT and these LLMs that we're having right now, they are amazing. But imagine having a team of autonomous AI agents working together, because there you have exactly this this effect. Right now, I have like a task or a document to proofread, and I give it to the AI, and it gives me feedback. And then I ask another question, or I ask for better feedback, or I want it to be refined in some way. Why shouldn't I automate this feedback loop? And I could have 2 or 3 or 4 agents working on a problem and challenging each other's and giving like feedback and rework stuff. And they can work all day on this thing. And at the end, they give you like a refined, peer-reviewed product. And you can have people in the loop or not in the loop. Yeah, but this is the next step that we are going to observe, that we are going to have autonomous agents collaborating with each other based on whatever task you give them. So it's not only this chatbot, what ChatGPT is originally designed to be, being like someone answering your questions. They can answer each other's questions and make their work even better.
Yeah, interesting. Difficult to imagine that, but I've also heard similar ideas about how to bring that up in software development, for example, where you have like a massive talent gap. So we have way too less people in software development, and maybe I don't know exactly how and when, but maybe we can also solve at least a bit of this problem by using these new technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think so. But as I said, I don't really see the robots replacing us or really filling job gaps. I think the job infrastructure is simply going to change and to be evolved. Yeah, and so the positions where we still need decision makers, where we still need creative artists, they will still be there. They are just going to be way more efficient.
Yeah.
And even though right now I could say a developer who is mastering the art of AI assisted coding is as efficient as 10 old school developers. Yeah, you could say it like, I don't know, it's like an arbitrary number. And you could apply this on a number of jobs. But this does not mean that we don't need developers anymore. The problem is if you then have this one opening, or instead of 100 developers, you want to hire 10 developers because they can work with a capacity of 100 developers, you still need to hire these 10 developers. And you will still have a very competitive market, and you will still have problems if you can't fill these positions.
Yeah, and you still will need very knowledgeable people. They know how to use these tools. Without that, or they know how to develop software in general, because otherwise, if you still need to transport your ideas into a machine, you still need to know what you want. If you don't know what you're talking about, I think we can imagine how the result will look like.
Yeah. Right. It's a little bit this classical problem with efficiency versus effectiveness, right? So you can work super efficient with an army of AI bots, but if the thing that you are building is the wrong thing, then you don't get any benefits out of it.
That's true. I think therefore we need now the soundboard with the horror style.
with this one. Maybe not the right one, but this always fits.
Really nice. So for all the people that are watching us right now, I don't have the real number of the people watching us currently, but if you have questions, share your opinions, please feel free to use this option right now. We still have time left, and we can ask or answer your questions or take your opinion into the show directly. So now we have talked a lot about the whole AI topic, but what else is there evolving right now?
Yeah, it's on the one hand, it's hard to say. On the other hand, it's not really hard to say because right now everything is AI, and the only thing that you actually see in the news is AI technologies. But of course, it is not the only technology that is emerging or that is important right now. One thing that I also like to talk about is, for example, quantum computing. Yeah, and this is something that is already there for quite a while, like some years. It's not that new, but the thing is, we don't use quantum computers yet in a productive setup. There are no problems that we are solving right now with quantum computers that we were not able to solve yesterday. And this is the big promise of quantum computers because they work very differently to our regular computers. And so we have things like drug design or some mathematical problems like encryptions, where the physicists who are working with quantum computers say those things will be completely disrupted in the future because quantum computers can handle them the way that nothing in our universe right now can do. Yeah, but we are not there yet. And last week or the week before that, I was on the Quantum Tech conference in London. This was very, very cool. With the Tech Review podcast, is going to the episode about this is going to be released in October.
Yeah,
But this
we
was
can also promote that if you like under your video, for
okay.
example.
Yeah. Right. So if you're interested in that, jump, not right now, but then jump to the Tech Review and take a look at what is happening in the space of quantum computing. And this was super interesting because we were talking there with like industry leaders from an industry that technically does not exist yet. Yeah, but there are so many millions and billions of dollars invested in this field because everyone knows this is going to be huge in the future. And the big question of when is going to be that future, nobody really can tell you, because on the one hand, quantum computers are already there and they are doing stuff. They are just not doing the things that we want them to do. All right. So everything that we are using quantum computers for right now, we also can do this with regular computers, but way cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, the regular computers are cheaper.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you have people telling you like in the next decade it's going to happen. And especially now that we are having generative AI, we can maybe increase the speed until we can leverage quantum computers. But the thing why I'm thinking quantum computers are so fascinating is because I'm a software engineer. I grew up with ones and zeros. This is the world that I know, and I can explain to you exactly how we were using computers to fly to the moon. This is what we are using computers for. And now the physicists come and say we have this new generation of computers. And I'm not sure if you're aware of how crazy quantum computers are, because since in the 40s, a little bit more education for everyone who doesn't know
Let's
that.
jump to the past.
Right, exactly. Yes. Germany in the 30s, there was Konrad Zuse, and he was developing the first programmable computer in Berlin, actually. Yeah, and this was huge. He had this machine that it was kind of a calculator, and he was able to add a program, and so this machine was doing whatever it was programmed to do. This was new. And since the 40s until today, until like here, my phone, the computers are working in the same way, the same math, the same mechanism of putting ones and zeros into use and calculating stuff. But the quantum computer is not doing that. The quantum computer is kind of using magic. And I mean this like in the literal sense. It is magic. I can't explain how it works. And the crazy thing is, when you talk to a physicist, they say, yeah, quantum mechanics, everything, a lot of books about that, but nobody can actually explain how it works, why it is like that. And you have these effects of quantum entanglements. There are two quantum particles and they are connected to each other. And one can be on Mars and one can be on the Earth. And when one is changing, the other is also changing. You can use this for communication. You can use this for everything. There are even these theories. You can do teleportation by modifying things that are entangled with each other and moving something from Earth to Mars. Yeah. But the thing is, the physicists can't tell you why it is like that. They can observe it. They can use it. They build computers around that. But we still don't know why. And so when we talk about Star Wars on my other podcast, we laugh about that because it's fantasy. Yeah? People are using the Force to do stuff that's like literal magic. But at the same time, we are using quantum computers, and they also use magic in a way that we can't explain. And that's why I think this is one of the weirdest technologies that we are having in our hands right now. And when I say we, not like literally we, but humanity. And we are still so young in this that we can't really explain how this magic is working.
I think not yet, but I think there will be an explanation, or we will find out how
I
it's
hope
work.
so. Yeah. Or maybe it's really magic.
So, like for this conference, were there many researchers as well and physicists, or do you think there were a lot more investors and people that really want to know when does this technology come to market and when can we, I don't know, make a business case out of it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, as on every conference, there's the scientific or engineering aspect, and the sales aspect. So each company that was there also had their sales representatives and showing their technologies, and was also a lot of sales. But the people who were actually driving the topics, those were the industry leaders, the people doing the research, people who are the decision makers in these spaces. And so it was super interesting to talk to them exactly about what these companies are researching on and what, in their perspective, is the next step or the quantum leap for certain industries. And this was super interesting. And what I also found very interesting, I, as an engineer or software engineer, it was a very different flavor of conference because, as you said, those are physicists, or like the people who are actually in this stuff, they are physicists. And so they have a different style of explaining stuff. They have different world views. They have different perspective on things. If you go to a tech conference, usually it is very different. I got like business cards on paper. I haven't seen this for like 10 years because in engineering, everyone only uses QR codes and not NFTs, like NFCs,
NFCs,
like near field, with your smartphone, because this is way more convenient. But on this conference, I got like a bunch of business cards, and that's still a thing.
Yeah, completely different world. Maybe that's
I mean,
exactly the
like
reason why
these magical,
we cannot explain the technology yet.
yeah, right. But I mean, put it in front of your eyes. You have these magical devices, and the people who are steering this technology are using paper business cards. This is kind of
Mixed
crazy.
realities.
Yes.
Okay, but you mentioned it already, NFTs. So what's about this whole Web3 hype? Is it dead or will there be a comeback? Because I was at a conference 2 weeks ago and I visited a panel about Web3 technologies. And I think there were unfortunately only 10 people in the whole room. And it was like really sad to see that, like, until now, it seems it's only a hype that vanished. But what is your take on that? Will it come back? Can we somehow leverage the technology in the future with some real valuable business cases?
Yeah. One does not simply talk about NFTs, right? No, but I mean, NFTs are kind of the joke of the Web3 space. And it hurts me very much because I was a blockchain enthusiast and kind of already still am. I still like this technology for what it is. And it was never meant to be something else. A blockchain is a database. And so you can do things with it that you're doing with the database. It's a distributed database. It's a very secure database. It's great. But it's just that. It's a database.
Yeah.
If you want to use it to travel to the moon, then you're doing it wrong. And this is what happened with NFTs. NFTs, as non-fungible tokens, are used as one tool in the blockchain sphere, and you can do things like signing stuff, right? You have a certificate which is unable to be tampered with. This is valuable if you have, for example, if you own a house, you can have like proof of ownership of this house based on this blockchain without any paper. And nobody can take this away from you. Yeah? Just as like a very, very simplistic use case. Or currency, the original thing that was built with blockchain, Bitcoin. Yeah? You have like this distributed system of currency that can't be tampered with. This makes sense. Until people started printing monkey images and told people that this is now $1 million worth or something. Yeah. So it was basically this misuse of the hype and the technology that destroyed the what's it called? The image of NFTs and blockchains in general. And that's why right now nobody's talking about it anymore. Everyone is glad that this hype is already is finally over. But it's also a good thing. I'm not sure. Do you know Gartner's hype cycle? That's like one of the golden things that we in innovation engineering always have to keep in mind. There was this big wave of enthusiasm, and everybody was using it for everything. And afterwards, there's this downfall, this very deep valley of tears, I think it's called. And this means people don't like this technology anymore because everyone or everything was oversaturated. But afterwards, there comes this time where people start using this technology for what it was
Yeah.
intended to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Web3 is not dead because the blockchain technology is still amazing if you use it as a
Yeah.
blockchain or distributed ledger as it is supposed to be. And so, if we take a look at identity management, for example, my digital identity on the web, it's right now very, very poorly implemented. I have approximately 1,000 passwords and distributed accounts everywhere, and I have to type my data everywhere, and people are stealing data everywhere, and don't have proof of anything. I have to get like a letter printed on paper to my home address to prove that I am whoever I am, want to be, claim to be.
You want to
Not want
be?
to be. That's the other way around. Yeah, I can't simply made up new identities. Yeah, but this is very, very old, a very, very old system of identity. And using the blockchain, for example, for identity management could bring a disruption into this space. And we were already there, or almost there, when AI hit, and so nobody's talking about it anymore. But Web3 is still a thing. Distributed technologies is still something that we are going to leverage in some way or the other, and maybe even together with this new problem that we are creating right now, like deepfakes. We have AI right now creating also a lot of problems because we are generating simply everything that we can. And then there comes these questions: how can we prove what was the original? How can we prove who is the owner or the original author of text or images or music or whatever? So for this kind of problem, we might need something like a distributed ledger, something that nobody can tamper with, something where we can store like digital fingerprints, watermarks, whatever, to prove the origin of certain media or data. Yeah? And so maybe the blockchain or Web3 technologies works perfectly in the future with things like proving authenticity of certain media. And then we are back where we were with this big discussion about Web3.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure we will be able to leverage something out of this. But as always with these hype technologies, it by itself is not the answer for everything.
Yeah, and I think the cycle that you mentioned, I think that is also something that I experienced with data science 5-6 years ago. Like every company wanted to make data science, no
Yeah,
matter if they understand what it is or not. And they started with their projects, and then they were surprised. Oh, we don't have the data yet to do data science, or we don't have the use case how to, or where it makes real sense. And then also we had this downfall, and I think
yeah,
currently we are using like data science is not a technology itself; it's more like a practice. We use this practice in more, in a more valuable way as we did it a few years ago.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh, Tarek, we are already so far, like in time, and already at the end of our time. But it makes a lot of fun talking to you, and I want to finish like our talk with one last question, actually, and it's more like a transferal question. Bringing it back to what I mentioned in the beginning with all the technical leaders that we have in our community, and every day they have to scout new technologies, but also evaluate them, how they can fit in their current product vision and so on. So, what would you recommend to them? How can they first keep track of all technologies, and second, how can they have like a good metrics for evaluation if a technology can be beneficial for their systems or not?
Yeah, it's a very complex question, and I won't be able to answer this in like one sentence. First of all, you have to, of course, find good sources for like evaluations of technologies, like the Tech Review podcast. No, but seriously, I mean, this is actually a big problem right now, keeping track and on everything that is happening. So you need to find like your trusted sources that aggregate whatever you need to know. You can't read everything. And in terms of how you understand or how you can see what technologies are actually worth investing in, I have like one example that really was eye-opening for me, even though it was very painful. And this was with VR technology. I'm a big VR nerd, a VR enthusiast. I also have like my high-end headset here at home. And I was totally sure in when was it 2015 when like this new technology came out that this is going to change everything. Finally, we are in the future, and very soon everyone is going to walk around with these AR glasses, and you will see it everywhere. But the big question that you need to ask yourself is, what actual benefits in your everyday use cases is it serving? And even though we started using VR headsets for online meetings, for example, yeah, we had like business meetings during COVID, and we started using VR because we said it's way better to see each other, the avatars moving in a three-dimensional space as if we were at the office. After a short time, we stopped using it because even though it was a great experience, it is not really solving any problem that we are having. If you want to have like a quick chat with someone, you open Zoom and then you have the chat and then you close Zoom. It's way more efficient than going into VR. Yeah, and I think this is the big challenge that you have to do with every new technology that you get into your hands. On the one hand, there are cool new things that you can do with it, but do you actually need it? Do you actually solve a problem that you need to be solved? Or do you create like new problems that you're then going to solve without actually having it? And if you ride the subway right now, you don't see people sitting there with their VR glasses typing emails on invisible keyboards, even though they could do that. But it's impractical. It's way more easy to do this on your phone, for example. Yeah? And so we are still not there yet that we lose our phone, even though maybe in 10 years technology will evolve that we don't need it anymore. But this is the big question. Yeah. So even though I, as an enthusiast, I'm very hurt to say it like that, but you have to be realistic or stay realistic and understand what actual problem these things are solving, and if these things that you get your hands on are bringing you actually forward with what you want to do. But don't let it stand in the way of disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you only think in the terms of the past, of the already well-worn paths, you will never see like the disruption where you say, okay, this does not solve any problem, but maybe everything around that is going to be obsolete very soon.
Yeah.
So my question probably did not answer anything.
It was a complex
because it
question
just
for a final one, I admit.
yeah. But feel free to contact me on, for example, LinkedIn, and I will be happy to like continue this conversation in another forum, or maybe on the podcast.
Yeah. So thank you very much for your time, and it was really fun. Unfortunately, not many people participated live, so hopefully there will be some more questions coming up after after the video is available on our YouTube. So Oliver was saying thank you. Thanks, Oliver, for joining us, and thanks, Tarek, especially for being here. And it was really great. Thank you very much for that. Hopefully to see
Thank you,
you
Sarah, for
again,
inviting me.
and also seeing the other audience again next time. And if you want to have more information, the easiest thing is just follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube, and then you will be notified when we are planning new events. Thanks. Bye, Tarek. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.